All right. So welcome. My name is Sunita Coe, and I am the Administrative Analyst in the Office of Student Engagement. I will be your host for today's Concentration Networking Mixer. I want to thank you all for joining us today. This session will cover the marketing concentration. Today you'll hear from Dr. Jesse Catlin, who is the Interim Department Chair for Marketing and Supply Chain Management, and Jasmine Carr, who is currently a senior double majoring in business with a concentration in marketing and communication studies. She's also the marketing liaison for our Office of Student Engagement. And before we get started, I just want to go over some housekeeping items. Please be aware that we are recording today's event. We may share the recording and presentation via email or website in the future. Your participation in this event acts as your consent to view the recording of today's presentation. You can utilize the chat box below, but since you're the only one here, you can just go ahead and blurt your question out. Feel free. And then the session will be limited to 45 minutes. If there are any additional questions at the end that were not answered, please email them to me, and I'll drop my email in the chat box. As a check-in for our event, will you please drop your email in the chat box for me, and then we can get started. So Dr. Jesse Catlin and Jasmine, please take it away.
All right. So Joshua, since you're our star pupil for the day, would you mind telling us? So I guess my name's Jesse Catlin. I'm an associate professor and also the interim department chair in the Department of Marketing and Supply Chain Management. And I guess my introduction, I have 2 degrees from Sac State. I got a bachelor's and master's. You might have heard us when you come in joking about wanting to stay at Sac State. And I will say one of the things, when I was a student there, I was a student at Sac State a long time ago. I liked being on campus. I like being on university campuses in general. And I kind of thought, well, how do you make a career out of this? And being a professor obviously was a natural way to do that. So, I've been around the campus for a while, left for a while, did some work and graduate studies, and I've been back now for something like 6 years.
Oh, wow.
But what I guess you want to tell us maybe a little bit about you, where you are in the program, and kind of what maybe what we can do to help you.
So this is my first semester here at Sac State. I just transferred from CRC.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm already in the business program. I'm concentrating in marketing, and I kind of just wanted to it's kind of hard this semester to get involved in the campus community, but I wanted to try and meet more people, network and stuff like that as much as I can. And yeah, basically it so far.
Awesome. Well, welcome to Sac State. And I had a presentation that, I was going to talk a little bit about what marketing is and, what kinds of careers you can do in marketing. I guess I can show you a little bit of that. But some of the stuff, I guess first question I'll ask you is, have you met with one of our advisors yet about classes and program requirements?
I've met with one of the counselors before.
Was it Brandon or Jamie or Maria?
I don't remember their name.
Okay, no worries. I just, in terms of one thing I'll advise you if you consult your records or whatever is to make sure you meet with one of them, because they can help you plan out your class schedule and make sure you do everything efficiently and all that coming in off the transfer. Actually, then maybe I'll spend some time on what I had planned, if that's okay.
They're specific to the business major.
Yes, I just dropped the link to the advising page. We are doing drop-in advising through Zoom. We also have OSC office hours too, so you can drop in at any time to ask us any questions as well. But I dropped the link for you.
Okay,
awesome.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and that's a great resource. If you have questions about anything, where do I turn in this form? What date does this need to be done by? Does this class count? We're lucky in the business school to have tons of resources for students, and not only lots of resources, but really well run and executed resources. So take advantage of them as a student. And I think I'll turn it over to Jasmine in a little bit. I'll go through a few slides, but she can probably give you the student's perspective about navigating. Actually, Sunita can too, because she was also I had Sunita in class
Yeah.
a while ago, so she can, when I sign off and this isn't recorded, she can give you the lowdown on that.
I have nothing bad to say.
So, well, go on Rate My Professor or wherever people yell.
I did. I rated highly of you.
Excellent. I don't get commission for those, unfortunately. So is it all right if I share my presentation for a bit? And then it looks like we have a new person joining.
Hi, Kenna.
Hi, Kenna.
Hello. I just wanted to check out what's going on.
Yeah.
Sure. We were just about to jump into a little bit of like marketing background presentation. I'll kind of try to get through that quickly, and then we'll open it up for questions and discussion. It's a small group, so we can, I think, maybe relax the format a little bit if that's okay. All right, so I'm going to share this PowerPoint here. So I've already introduced myself. This is just the title page. If you need to get in touch with me, you can see my contact information is listed down here below, jesse.catlin@csus.edu. I'd normally give you my office, but that place is not being used at the moment. So we'll continue here. So just, a lot of times students come into marketing, and if you've had my one-on-one class, this is sort of the first day lecture is, what is marketing? A lot of people have, think they know what marketing is, but a lot of times they're not quite sure, or they think it's like, just selling people stuff they don't need, or, robocalls, or, whatever else, advertising. They think you're just going to sit there and watch ads all semester. And while advertising is part of it, you can see it listed here. There's all kinds of business functions that rely on marketing, whether it's branding, managing products, doing marketing research, social media stuff, pricing, public relations, the list goes on and on and on. But at the root level, it's about understanding consumer wants and needs and trying to deliver value to consumers, right? So I guess the bottom line here is if any of this appeals to you, then marketing is probably a good fit. If not, then you might consider other concentrations instead. But there's a lot of different things you can do that involve marketing, right? And I've listed the American Marketing Association here, which is kind of the major, at least in the United States, marketing organizations that marketing professionals can be a part of. And students can also be members as well. And I believe in the past years, we've had an AMA chapter here on campus. I don't know how that's working with COVID at the moment, but it is something to check out if you're interested, because there is an AMA Sacramento Valley chapter that has a lot of people who work in marketing in Sacramento, and they meet periodically and have events and things. So that's a good way for you to network if you want to meet people in the field and try to get those internships and
They
things.
have one of those on campus?
That's correct, yeah. So they have there's an AMA chapter at Sac State, which is part of the broader Sacramento chapter. And then of course it's a national, there's international members as well. As you may know, at Sac State, we've got, if you're interested in marketing, we basically have two programs for you. We've got the marketing concentration, so you can make marketing, your main thing, or we also have the marketing minor. And the link, Sunita posted a link to the advising page. When you go to those pages, you can interact with one of our professional advisors. You can also find these concentration sheets. It might be a little bit hard to see, but for each one of the concentrations that we have at Sac State in the business school, including the minors, we have these one sheet, and maybe they're more than one, but it tells you everything you need to take, to get into the concentration. It also tells you, what the electives are and what you need to do to finish the degree. So it obviously helps to have an advisor kind of walk through these things with you, but these sheets are pretty helpful, I think, for kind of getting a basic concept of what you want to do, doing some course planning, and then you can always go see one of our advisors to kind of go over that with you and work it out. And we got some chats, just making sure. Thank you, Sunita, for posting the links.
Of course.
So if you have any questions about those, I don't want to spend too much time walking through them, but I do want you to know they're there, because sometimes I meet with students and they're like, I'm not really sure what to take. Is there a place where it says what I need to do? This is where it says what you need to do. All right, and if you have questions, please feel free to jump in there. All right, so many of us, especially in the business school, are quite career motivated. You may or may not be, but if you are interested in pursuing a marketing career, here's some information to help you with that decision. Good news is that the pay is generally pretty reasonable. Starting salaries tend to be somewhere around $40,000, depending on where you work. Could be a little bit lower, could be a little bit higher. But they can increase quite a bit as you get more experience and depending on what other roles you might move into. As we'll see in another slide, I've got some other salary info. A lot of times you're starting out in marketing. It's usually called something like a marketing coordinator, marketing specialist type of role. Those are kind of like general marketing analyst. And those are more of your entry-level type roles. And then you start to, you can progress from there in depending on how the organization is set up. But definitely a good place to start a career, and the salaries and benefits are pretty decent for early career as well, and they can obviously get better as time goes on. One thing I suggest to students, and this often seems like you're getting ahead of yourself because you're like, I just started taking marketing classes. Why would I be looking for advanced, why would I be looking for marketing jobs? Why would I be looking at jobs I don't qualify for, even because I don't even have a degree yet? And the answer to that is because a lot of this can help you figure out, you're here today and you're trying to chart a path for where you want to be in maybe 2, 3, or maybe less than that, but years from now. Figuring out where you want to be helps you plan for those next few years, right? So what I would urge you to do is, there's all kinds of job websites out there, but you may have heard of Indeed, LinkedIn, Career Builder, Dice if you're in tech stuff. Head to one of these websites or your preferred one. There's plenty more that I haven't listed out here, and do some keyword searches. Filter by marketing. Look up keywords for jobs that you think you might be interested in or that maybe you even heard about. You can get tons of information about what kinds of jobs are out there, what the requirements for those jobs are. Sometimes they'll tell you how much those jobs pay, right? And so as you do this, just browse through. See if any jobs stand out. Like, is there a job that you say, you know what, that sounds awesome. I would like to do that. Read the descriptions, right? Look at the companies that are hiring. Look at the roles they have. The things that stand out, keep note of those and use those to help you decide what to do today, right? If I want to get here, what kind of skills does it look like I need? And I know it might sound a little bit weird to look at a job where it says, well, you need a bachelor's degree and 5 years of experience and this and that and the other thing. But if you know that today, it helps you prepare, right? And at the same time, you might find information about other kinds of jobs that you could qualify for. So I'm not saying just look at jobs you don't qualify for. You might also look at jobs you qualify for as well now. Maybe there's internships there. A lot of companies offer internships. Some of them will come through the school. You might see them on the biz list. You might see them on the business job board. You might see them through the Career Center, but a lot of them are not going to even come through the university, right? They may not recruit like that. They might just post it online. So it may be up to you to go out and find those things. So I urge you to, take a look. Don't just filter by the jobs you qualify for. Look at all the jobs and see if that can help you figure out where you might want to land. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And don't wait until, a lot of times students, you think, well, I'm not ready to work. So you wait until, do this now. you never know what you're going to find. I would recommend doing it periodically, and in fact, because there's constant changes in these things, right? An internship might be available today. They fill it, it comes open later. You never know. More info on marketing salaries and career paths. If you're curious, there's all kinds of data out there. Some is better than others. But here are some common titles that are used across different companies and the median annual salaries. And you can see as you move up from kind of the specialist analyst type roles to things that say more like senior or manager, the salaries tend to be, higher as well. And so the jobs that are shown here, these are, more your kind of middle to later career type roles, whereas these are probably going to be more on your, early to mid career path. Of course, it all depends on, some of it depends on cost of living, where you live, right? If you go get a job in San Francisco versus a lower cost of living area, or if you stay in Sacramento versus going to, New York or something like that, but something to think about. There's a recent study that came out that said 13% of CEOs started their careers in marketing related roles. So that tells you, I think that was the third highest percentage. So I think operations was number one, finance was number two, and then marketing was number three in terms of like where CEOs actually started their careers before they became the chief executive officer. And a couple of sources there if you want to look these things up. There's plenty of stuff all over the internet if you're interested. That's all I have, pre-prepared. I think given the audience here, it makes sense probably to open it up for questions. Maybe Jasmine, you want to talk a little bit, or they can ask you some questions about the student experience. I mean, I can give people lots of advice, but you guys are a little closer to it than I am.
Yeah. So, well, if anyone doesn't know yet, hi everyone, I'm Jasmine, and I'm currently a senior and double majoring in business marketing and communication studies. So I came as a first generation college student, and I think like my classes and just experiences with on-campus life and at OSC now have really taught me a lot about marketing and just like its role in business in general. So for me, I actually chose marketing because I thought that it was an exciting industry and it's filled with a lot of opportunities for further development. And I think that means a lot to me to just grow and learn. I'm always about that, just trying to find new things. And it's just really interesting for me to learn different techniques, or since I've been really interested into marketing for now, I've been looking at different analytics side because it's moving to the more digital marketing aspect with the current situation. And it also just gives like an opportunity for further development with like the presence of new products and emerging technologies as well. But as a student, I believe that the group projects in my marketing classes really like provided me with the hands-on experience I always wanted. Because like there's a thing that I feel like until we like apply it in some format, it doesn't really stick. Like just like learning about it, it's different, but actually like applying it to something real life, it really makes a difference in like sticking to it. My favorite part was the opportunity to work with actual small businesses in the region and like do the marketing research on them, analytics, and like format a marketing strategy for their improvement. And we even got to like interact with the business itself and just discuss their overall success points. And luckily, like my group members, some of them worked at the places, so we had like some background experience from the businesses. So the team interactions and the communication was really valuable. And like I'm always pretty like involved on campus or just trying to make the best out of like the whole college experience by getting what I can. And I've met like great people and network which add to my connections. And a lot of the mixers I've attended for like the career development days or just events on campus in the union, there's been a lot of them and career days. So I think I would definitely encourage for anyone new coming in to try to stay involved. I know like right now it's on Zoom, but it's still, I think it kind of gives like a one-on-one experience nowadays too, because not a lot of people are on there. So you're kind of open to being able to ask more questions than you might have felt comfortable in person too. So there's like pros and cons. I definitely prefer like face-to-face experience, but we can make the best out of what we have now. But I think like working as a marketing liaison for OSC and as like the VP of marketing for women in business, I've really learned a lot about like social media marketing and planning posts and just like the back analytics that I never focused on before. So that was really meaningful and like provided me great opportunities in the field itself. But yeah, that's what I have, and feel free to ask any questions.
So like, what would you recommend like joining, like if you have any like recommendations to like get involved the most, like network wise?
I think there's a lot of business clubs we have, and there's an event coming up, BizFest or BizFling, I forgot, but BizFest, there we go. So right for that, a lot of clubs are actually presenting, and you can kind of get an idea of what they do. I've actually been working with a few clubs that I've wanted to collaborate with, like women in business as well. So I know that a lot of people are trying to recruit, and it's hard to get the word out because unless you kind of follow them or read these emails, it's hard to find out. But I think BizFest will be a great opportunity to see the clubs, and maybe AMA will show up. I've been a part of the AMA for the few semesters, but it's like on and off at times. Some semesters it's like more interactive, some not. But overall, just definitely looking at BizFest would be good.
When is BizFest?
So BizFest is actually next week. I popped in a link to all of our OSC events for the semester. If you also follow us on our social media on Instagram, it's CBA Biz Students. We post updates on all of our events. So next week, all week, we have different sessions for different clubs. There are going to be some evening ones and some morning ones. So depending on which club you're mostly interested in, you can attend those sessions. So we do have, very concentration, very detailed clubs where it's accounting society or BAP, which is more accounting and finance, or there's human resources, or then there's general ones where women in business is a general one. I think, Gamma Iota Sigma is finance, I think. And then there's honor societies like Beta Gamma Sigma. So there's just a lot of different ones. So if you wanted to attend, I'm going to be posting some updates for next week. So that's going to happen on Monday through Thursday, and they're at different times. So you'll just have to look out what times they are.
So it's explaining all the different clubs and stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of club members. They're going to do a little spiel on their club, what they do, and how to join. I think some of them have specific, ways to like be a member. So I'm not sure like what all their rules and everything are. So
okay, cool.
I think even if like it conflicts with your classes and stuff, I think it would be good to even just follow them on social media. I know OSC, we tag a lot of these clubs on our stories and even posts, so you can easily access them through there as well.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to ask a question because I'm curious, and this might be helpful to some others too. So Jasmine, what if you like I guess it's a tough time to ask this question because the experience is so bizarre right now. But if
Yeah.
you knew something like, I don't know, 2 years ago or 3 years ago when you were first kind of starting to make your way into the business major, is there something you wish you had known or you might have done differently?
Mm. Well, I didn't focus that much on internships at that point. I feel like that would have been good to just start looking and like getting experience through that. But overall, like I think I was trying to make the best out of what like I could do at the time being. But yeah, so internships would be the one thing that I kind of knew more about, and like I wish we had like the more events like these mixers and stuff because I really wanted to know of like the field I'm going into before, because I was just like, okay, well, marketing, and I never got that whole like, okay, so what actually is marketing, just like you explained it today. And I was hoping to get that from the Marketing 101 class, but it was a different experience.
We'll save that for another time, offline, right? Good. So, yeah, I guess one thing I'll note on that is sometimes people too, you think of internships and you go like, well, there's different kinds of internships, and you want to be careful about where you go to work. But I mean, sometimes there are actually internships, or there are jobs you can get that are in marketing that might seem a little bit, like I can give you an example. Is I have spoken with do you guys know the Sacramento Republic soccer team?
Mm-hmm.
So in Sacramento, right? So their VP of marketing has been a guest speaker in some of my MBA classes. Allison Yee Garcia, and she's great. And she worked for the Kings prior to that. She's had a really awesome career. And one of the things she said is, we have jobs, they seem kind of, maybe they're probably fun, but they don't seem particularly glamorous, on their street teams, like handing out flyers or, like doing the booth at the event, or on game days when fans can come, doing some kind of promotional coordination. And she said, well, that's kind of how you get your foot in the door sometimes. I mean, sure, they may have higher roles that they hire from outside for, but if you want to meet the VP of marketing for a professional sports team, one way to do it is to, get the lower level job working under their supervisor, and you might get the chance to meet them. And who knows, you have a connection then, and they suggest, it's the little things like that sometimes that can add up, and you might think like, well, I don't want to go do that, but it actually is a marketing job. And, they're probably not going to give you the keys to the executive office right away, right? So there's kind of that, where do you start? And finding that kind of foot in the door where you can be challenging, but that's one way and some stuff. Of course, I always tell students, be very wary of anyone who, if there's an unpaid internship, there are some out there that can be good. I'm not saying there aren't, but in many cases, I start to wonder if someone can't, you should ask yourself, is this a legitimate organization? And if they can't afford to pay me minimum wage, like, are they really unable to get that little of value out of my time? When you think about it, right? Like, if I'm not going to be doing something that isn't worth $10 an hour to a company, then what's going on, right? I want to be doing something that's worth more than that. I mean, maybe they're only paying you $10 and it's worth a lot more, but I start to wonder, when they can't pay me at all, what's the reason for that? And there are sometimes nonprofits and things where things are more complicated. But, sometimes it's entry level type stuff that leads to more, once you have that on your resume.
So I actually wanted to address something that just started going on in my mind is I used to work in manufacturing, and we had a robust marketing department, and I made friends with some of the people on that team. And one thing that I realized is that you probably want to specialize whether it's entertainment or sports or manufacturing or something, because marketing is, it isn't just one thing, right? It's a lot of different things. So can you address a little bit of that, like how you would recommend starting to look and determine a specialty?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great point, and I think it's common in a lot of across a lot of disciplines. Marketing is certainly one of them. You know, as skills get, you know, demand changes, things get more technical, the need or desire to specialize has changed a lot, and it's increasing. So, you know, within marketing, I showed all those previous jobs, right? And so some people that get into marketing might come in and say like, oh, I want to design content. You know, I want to create stuff. I have an eye for design or whatever it might be. And so you specialize that way. Increasingly too, we see people saying, well, I want to be a marketing, you know, researcher. Maybe I want to get into data analytics. You hear terms like big data thrown around, you know, all over the place. And that can be, you know, at the undergraduate level, that can be possible. I mean, if you know for sure you want to go into data analytics, then the obvious path is, well, you're going to want to take marketing analytics. You know, when it comes to your electives, take the electives that seem to fit more with where you're trying to go, right? But on top of that, I mean, don't shy away from the math and statistics classes, right? If math counts for something and you know, took something else, I mean, to do a lot of those more advanced jobs is going to require some supplemental training. So I'm just going to use data analytics as an example. We're bringing a business analytics concentration actually online in the major soon to address that need. But for those of you who are still, you know, are working through it or not going to change paths, I mean, you can take outside statistics classes or other kinds of things. You could petition to maybe have one of them substitute for something else, depending on if you have a very specific goal you're trying to achieve. The other thing is a lot of people will get master's degrees now. So if you say, I really want to be in data analytics, well, you have the undergraduate degree in marketing. So you understand marketing and you understand like strategy and you get the, you know, you get it, the business side. You can get a master's degree in business analytics or even in statistics or related disciplines and then apply those skills to marketing, if that makes sense. So a lot of times, because a lot of times you'll see someone, they're trained in statistics their whole career or whatever, and they might be really great at statistics, but they have no idea about business. You know, they don't understand, like, they're like, I understand the statistics and the theory of this and the theory of that, but how do they have no clue how this would be applied. You know, they can't even visualize how this would be applied to a marketing situation. So there's kind of combination there. At the undergraduate level, you can specialize a little bit. I mean, use your electives to specialize. If you have a really good reason or a goal to take another, you know, class outside of business, then you could attempt that. And then also, you know, a master's degree or even a minor could be a, you know, maybe you do a concentration in marketing, a minor in statistics or something like that if you were going for business analytics. Or, you know, once it's available, you could take a business analytics concentration. But the same can be said otherwise. If you're really into content creation, maybe you take some classes in design, or you try to find an internship that's related to a role that would get you into more of content creation. So there's a bit of being able to position yourself that way too, right? Depending on the kind of organization you're interested in. If you're interested in sports, well, I gave you kind of a hypothetical way to start working in sports marketing, right? But you could tweak that approach to go for, you know, if you want to work for an advertising agency or, you know, in that kind of an environment, then look for ways to get involved there. One of the other people I have as a guest speaker in some of my classes is Debbie Hammond, who's the founder of Merlot Marketing, spelled like the wine, M-E-R-L-O-T. And it's a local, very successful advertising agency. You may not have heard of it, But when you look at some of their clients, you've probably seen their products.
I've actually met her at the Biz Woman Mentoring event
Oh,
that
okay.
happened
Yeah.
on campus. Yeah. But it was nice to talk to her and just hear the side of marketing that she's doing in her business.
Yeah, she's great. And I mean, and people don't necessarily think of Sacramento as like a agency city, with big ad agencies like maybe New York, Chicago, LA, or something like that. But they do exist. It's just kind of a matter of finding out where they're at and who's involved. And once you do, you start to open, doors. So
Yeah, that's kind of how for me. I started as a student assistant here in the Office of Student Engagement, and I majored in marketing. And before that, I actually went to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in San Francisco, and I majored in visual communications, where I was really hands-on on window displays. And I went to work as a full-time visual merchandiser, and I thought I was going to go the corporate route and be like a district manager for all the corporate visual settings for retail stores. And I changed my mind. I came back to school, and that's when I kind of dove in deep into marketing, because I wanted to stay a little along the lines of what my past major was. And I started my business. So I have a baking business. And so now I've learned I've created all my digital marketing and how to merchandise all my cookies that I do for my social media. And I love content creating. So I'm more into digital design. So that's how I found my roots. So it just kind of depends on how you're feeling, like when you're going to all your classes, all your electives. I took all my classes that are in advertising, retail management, those kind of things, because I knew a lot. I kind of knew I had a background in it, and I kind of wanted to learn more. So it just kind of depends on what you're feeling, kind of what you're gravitating towards, what you want to do in your marketing field. So there's different options. So I think, just kind of taking those first steps and taking those classes and see which one works best for you.
I just had a quick question. So is SEO part of the business analytics aspect?
Is it a class?
Oh, just
I
like
haven't seen their course map in a while, but I do believe I suspect there will be some of that in there. We also have a digital marketing class.
Yeah, I'm
that
taking it. Luckily.
that should cover, at least touch on that. I don't know exactly how deep they go into that. Like, it's probably not the focus of the whole class, but I'd be surprised if they don't touch on that a little bit. And in some of these things, I mean, I'll say before we go, you have to have like really specialized skills. Like a college course may not teach you a specific software, right? Like sometimes they do, but like to learn about, I mean, for us to try to teach you every marketing software would be crazy. So sometimes there's like certificate programs you can get if you go work in an organization that uses Salesforce or that uses this or that. There's also supplementary certificates you might search out if you're going to be in a role that is like steeped in one specific software, all day kind of a thing.
It took me 2 years to learn all my Adobe suite, all like Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, all those things. And of course, they're always coming out with new programs and softwares now. So I'm always having to keep up with all the softwares. And then sometimes when I don't know anything, I just Google it and watch YouTube videos on how to relearn how to do something.
Yeah, I think right now with virtual like stuff, I've actually like done a lot of workshops and like marketing workshops or just like SEO to just like get more like hands-on, like one-on-one teaching kind of thing. And because they shared their screen and like explained it, so I think like I got a lot more out of it than I knew I would.
Good. Any last, I think we're pushing up on the time allotted for the session. So any last questions before we wrap things up?
I want to have I wanted to ask about when the women in business meetings are happening.
So
Jasmine?
they happen every Monday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Yeah.
But our kickoff meeting will be next Monday.
This is the reason why I haven't been able to join it, is I always have a Monday night class. I'm like, okay, I'm never going to go. So although I believe we're asynchronous for most of the time this semester, so maybe I will.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
where can I find that information?
You can follow us on Instagram. It's CSUS Web. So
Oh, yes.
yeah, that.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you. And then the last thing I was going to say is that business analytics mixer meeting is happening in 15 minutes on this. So we'll be able to ask them that as people there. So, right?
I'll be there too.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us
I
today.
did have one last question.
Sure.
I got an email. I think it was from one of like the business fraternities. Does that count as like one of the honor societies, or is that just like regular Greek
Is
life?
it Delta Sigma Pi?
I think it was that. Yeah.
Okay, so that's totally different. They're not an honor society. They're a fraternity that's co-ed. So they are recruiting this semester. So if you're definitely interested, they're actually going to be in one of the BizFest sessions that I'm going to be hosting next week. I can tell you what time. So it's going to be on Tuesday, September 15th at 8 p.m. And they're only 30-minute sessions. So I will be there to host that event as well.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Jesse and Jasmine, for speaking and sharing your experience with us today. If there are no other questions, this will conclude our session. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.